Assalamu alaikum, peace be with you, and welcome to Islam and Life with me, Tariq Ramadan, broadcasting from London. In today's show, we ask the question, how important is symbolism in the Hajj to Muslims?
The Hajj is full of symbolism. Does the Kaaba remind 1.3 billion Muslims of unity? Will stoning the devil remind Muslims to fight oppression? Does running between Safa and Marwa remind us of the efforts of our ancestors? After all, Allah in the Quran says, "Indeed, Safa and Marwa are among the symbols of Allah." This week's Islam and Life asks, how important is symbolism in the Hajj to Muslims?
Al-Hajj, the pilgrimage, is one of the pillars of Islam, one of the 5 pillars of Islam. It's central to our understanding for many reasons. The first one, because the Muslims, men and women, are asked and requested to do it once or to perform it once in their lifetime. But more importantly, there are meanings and spiritual meanings that are so important in coming together. Muslims from different traditions, different schools of thoughts, different understanding even of the same scriptural sources, Al-Quran and the prophetic traditions, are coming together. So there are meanings and there are symbols that we have to meditate and we try to understand, and especially when it comes to what we are witnessing today among Muslims. Sometimes lack of unity, lack of dialogue, lack of solidarity. The pilgrimage that is coming is a reminder of the essential spiritual teachings for Muslims. How can we get the very essence of the pilgrimage? What are the symbols that we have to ponder over? In which way we have to deal with all the spiritual dimensions that we have in one of the pillars of Islam? To answer these questions, I'm joined by my guest, editor of the Muslim News, Ahmad Versi. Thank you so much for being with us today. As we heard, many dimensions are here in what is a central pillar of Islam. And this is also something which is an individual journey, but very much rooted in something which is a collective understanding, which is individuals and community. So let us start with the meaning for the basic knowledge for a Muslim practicing his or her religion. What are the essential meanings of the pilgrimage, al-Hajj?
I think, Assalamu alaikum. I think for me, for example, Hajj was a spiritual journey. Spiritual journey towards God. Of course, we do have spiritual journey towards God when we are at home as well as if we go to a mosque. But this is kind of an ultimate journey to God. And so pilgrimage helps you that spirituality. And the other thing that pilgrimage that brought home to me was you meet people from different parts of the world, and you not only perform the rituals together, but then you meet and discuss about the situations of the respective countries, like you mentioned earlier. We are so much divided. We do not have. We always try and fight against each other. But this pilgrimage brings us all together, and so during the Hajj time, you meet people from different countries. You try and discuss about the issues of their countries, and they discuss about you, and you try and bring people together.
So if we listen to you, because there is something which is essential in what you are saying, is that the first part of what you are saying is to come back to God, to come to God, which is in fact the spiritual journey. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We belong to God and to Him we will return, which is also something which is a very intimate journey to our own self, to the heart. which is this spiritual dimension that you are talking. But straight after this, you come to the collective side, the community side of the pilgrimage. So, in which way you can take this as a symbol of what a Muslim community or a Muslim ummah, a communion of believers or a spiritual community should be together? What can we take out of this lessons that you are talking about?
I think the lesson is that we are not only as individualistic in the community, but we are part of the ummah, of the whole community. And that, and the Hajj, for example, is one of the basic understandings of Islam. You have to go for Hajj. And the Hajj would then reminds us that all these things which are happening around the world, where Muslims are killing Muslims, where Muslims are split into different schools of thought, and they are fighting against each other just because they believe in something else. But when we go to pilgrimage, when we go to Hajj, we are all there together. You know, we circumambulate. You know, we do the tawaf all together. You know, you're Chinese, or you're Tanzanian, you're African, you're European. You're all together there. You know, there's no fight. You know, you pray to one God, and you recite from the same Quran when we are praying. So, it all, I think, should remind us that we are one, and we should try and forget about our fights, and we should try and come together. And I think what the Saudi government should be doing for this issue is they should have a kind of a conference there just after the rituals are finished, or in between the timing, to bring people together from different parts of the world and say, let us sit down together and resolve our issues.
When you are saying we come all together, so does it mean that, in fact, what we have to understand is that our unity should be stronger than our political views, our cultural belongings, our understanding of such a school of law, a school of thought? Or does it mean that at the end, this kind of unity that we are dreaming as Muslims today should be or should come first beyond all the diversity of our thoughts? Because at the end of the day, if you look at the Muslims today and through the pilgrimage, you say, oh, this is unity. But there is unity with diversity, that we should not deny the fact that people have different cultures, that people have different understandings. How are we going to deal with this, and how can we understand the pilgrimage as a lesson towards the way we have to manage this?
Well, see, we have to accept that I might be following Islam in a certain way, and you might be following in another way. Yeah. That should not interfere in our unity. You can pray the way you want, I can pray the way I want, I can have my own Islamic fiqh, the way I follow my fiqh, you can have the same. But there is more to Islam than just following our own kind of Islamic laws or ritualistic, I mean, those kind of issues. I think the pilgrimage, the Hajj, symbolizes that unity. It says, look, you've come from different parts of the world, from different schools of thought, but you're still one in reality. And this is why we have the ihram, which is two pieces of white cloth. So when you are there with the rest of the humanity there, in a sense, you are completely dissolved within the community. You don't feel there when you are going around the Kaaba, or you are in Arafah, where you are praying to God for mercy and going to Muzdalifah and so on. You're not thinking, oh, he's a Shia, he's a Sunni, he's a Wahhabi, he's this or he's the other. You are all one in one there, and when you're praying. When you're facing the Kaaba, you are next to a person who might be whatever schools of thought. He might be black, white, rich or poor, king or pauper. This is the whole concept, this whole symbol of Hajj, is to say that, look, if in the presence of God you are one, so actually you are one in humanity. outside there.
Which was also the symbol that we have in the clip, was the Kaaba being the, you know, coming all together with the worshipping one God. And listening to you, it's as if the quality that are, or the qualities that are necessary for us to manage this diversity, it's humility and equality, knowing that we are all equal before God. And humility means that we should accept that there are different interpretations. Let us come to the second symbol that we have, and if you may also add something about other symbols when it comes, for example, in stoning a shaitan, and people who are coming from another religion could be surprised by the way Muslims are doing this. But there is something which is very important in our understanding, coming to the purification and then staying to everything which is bad or the devil is. This is, there is stoning here to protect us from everything.
Can I come just something before that? It's very, very important. You see, when you are in the form of ihram, you know, your ego and yourself is no more there. Yeah, you're dissolved in the humanity and in oneness with, not only with humanity and with God as well. I think this is very, very important. There's no self or ego. So not only self and ego as individual, but self and ego as school of thought, or what you believe is saying that, oh, I know better than you do. So you follow the way.
Your own ego.
Everything is gone. Right? I think it is important that we take this with us as well. And coming to the stoning of the shaitan, I mean, that is again, you are actually going against everything which is evil. You're trying to say, look, I'm taking out everything that's evil in me. You are fighting against something which is oppressive, because shaitan is oppressive. He leads you to evilness, to try and to violence, for example. Yeah. So in a way, that is a symbol. You are fighting against an oppression, fighting against something, say for example, in your real life, in dictator, or fighting against yourself as well. You are, you know, hitting something to completely change yourself to something which is positive. So therefore, in real life, you'll say, okay, I will not live a life of under an oppression. Yeah, I will hit back. I mean, I will fight against it. It could be physical, or it could be just by speaking out against something. And I think this is what hitting the shaitan is to me.
There is something interesting in all this, because in all our, you know, the philosophies that we have very often today about non-violence, it's everything is about being peaceful and being. In the Islamic tradition, and in what you are saying now, there is something which is very important. The way you go towards peace and purification, and what you are saying, mastering the ego, freeing yourself from your ego, getting a sense of humility, understanding the equality between the people, all these dimensions. At the same time, you need to know that there should be resistance, that it's not going to be an easy path, it's not going to be an easy way. You have to resist a shaitan, the devil, everything which is bad. So there is a struggle, and in the heart of this pilgrimage towards peace and the center, know that you have to struggle and you have to resist. And what you are saying, it's important, meaning in fact, as human being, the pilgrimage is telling us there is no life without resistance, in a way.
Yeah, it isn't. I mean, without struggle. I mean, struggle in your inner self as well. I mean, you know, the greater jihad, as we call jihadul akbar. Yeah, you are, by hitting the shaitan, you are also struggling against your own self from inner self. Yeah, and also the other one, which is the lesser jihad, asghar, which is like, you know, fighting, resist against, as I said before, against oppression, or if you find some people who are suffering in this world, we have to try and go and help them. So I think we have to come back from the Hajj pilgrimage to understand that as well. So maybe when we come back, we might look at the world, the physical world, in a different manner. So look, when I see somebody suffering, I must do something.
There is a sense of solidarity,
there
resistance,
yes,
and solidarity.
Yeah.
Do you have something to add as to the symbols that you see, and which type of symbols that you have in the pilgrimage? Because there is one other one, which is Safa wal Mar'a, we'll come to it. But do you have something else in mind that you say, we need to add this because this is crucial?
Something which is unique. When we are doing tawaf, there are two people who are buried just near the Kaaba at the crescent. One is Ismail, the Prophet, and one is Hajra, his mother. We have a female person, and we are doing pilgrimage around it. You know, normally people believe that, look at Muslims symbolically, you know, I mean, look at reality, that they treat women differently as low. But look at here we are actually going around a female person who's been buried there, giving her such a high status, the way we treat women, the way we should consider about women, that in the eyes of God, right, she has a status, equal status to men, next to buried. And she was also, when she was married to the Prophet Ibrahim, I mean, she was a slave woman. You can see the status that Allah has brought her towards. And I think this, again, for me, is a symbol that we should treat women equal to men.
And then there is also something that we can add to this, which has to do with in the haram, within the space and the holy space around the Kaaba. This is where men and women are completely equal. They come to pray together, and this is also something which is essential in the evaluating and assessing the beings, by saying this is a complete equality when it comes to men and women, which sometimes is not always understood by all the people, and even sometimes the way they are still in the spaces, discriminations even there, it's not exactly faithful to the way the pilgrimage was done from the very beginning, having men and women all together. I
think there's one thing as well, when before I said about when you are equal, black and white together and so on, we have so much racism outside. Even amongst Muslim community, you are Pakistani, you are Bangladesh, I'm an Arab, I'm higher in status to you than you are, come on, you're an Indian or whatever. And you can see how such kind of impact it can have on human beings. So Malcolm Shabazz, in the 60s, when he went for Hajj, he was really pleasantly surprised. And he said the thing that he really brought back from that was that he was treated as equal by other human beings. Even though he was black, the white Muslim treated him as same as he would have treated other white Muslims. And coming from a state at that time, United States, where there was so much racism, where blacks were treated so lowly, for him that was one of the highest thing that he could take back from Hajj. And I think we keep on forgetting. It is very, very important, because it still exists even amongst ourselves. We still have this kind of status problem. So I think we have to take this back and say, look at the symbol that we have in Hajj. That you're standing next to a black person or a white person or whatever.
And this, in fact, in the story of Malcolm X, this is what changed his mind, and then understanding that Allah is not looking at your body, He's not going to look at your skin, He's going to look at, or He's looking at your heart, which is the essential. This is the best among you, is the one who is the best with this God consciousness. We were talking about the Safa wal Marwa in the clip, and I think that this is important because it's connecting the Muslims also with the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, in the way his wife, and in fact she became afterward, but she had his son. And you spoke about Ismail alayhi salam. This is a story which is very important, because we are experiencing again and again something which has to do with, in fact, a woman who is just relying on God and hoping that she will survive.
And I think this is the whole point, is that we forget that there is somebody else up there. We always rely on ourselves, on human beings. We forget that there's somebody else who's God, who can help you when you are in distress, when you are in difficulties. And here we have Hajra and Ismail going, especially Hajra, because leaving Ismail on the ground, going from one mountain, running to the other mountain to see if there was anyone coming, because they were all on their own. And you can see she had this trust in God. He completely believed in God that something will come and help me. And she strived for that. This is a courage, and this is a female person. Again, you can see how much God is giving that status to her. And then finally, when she comes down, she finds that where Ismail was sitting, there was water flowing. And so you can see this is a miracle from God that came up because of her courage and her wanting, this kind of belief in God that, if I do something, maybe there's something might come out of this. So by even just going up and down the mountain and having trust in God, she was able to get something.
That's interesting. You said one word that I want you to explain. You said her courage. Very often we don't talk about her courage. We talk about her sabr, which is her patience and perseverance, or her tawakkul, which is relying on God. What are you talking about courage, which could be a very important lesson, as all these symbols are there when we speak about pilgrimage. Courage seems to be important.
Because you have to have courage to do something that you think it is impossible to do, and this is what is lacking in us. We think, well, we can't do it, it's impossible. But look at her, in the wilderness, there's no one there. Nabi Ibrahim had left her, and only 2 of them there. And that's courage, to be able to continue and because of that, she was able to have trust in God, and she tried her best to symbol, and we can symbolize that in today is that whenever there is things that we are suffering, like for example what is happening in the Muslim world, we have to take up courage to do it, to try and bring about a change. Otherwise, we will not succeed.
And you feel that this is missing today with Muslims? Very much so. So what should they do with the pilgrimage? How is it to come back to the very meaning, the essence of the pilgrimage, and to understand this would be a way forward for the Muslims?
Yeah, I think it is one of the many ways forward. I think, because for me, especially because I focus a lot on Hajra, because because she's a unique person in this case, and especially as a woman, and be able and has suffered so much, and still she came out so powerful in our history. I think for me, I would bring out from the of course, other than spirituality and unity, that we should have courage to be able to go out into the real world and do something for the Muslim community.
Thank you so much. Listening to you, it's quite interesting, because if we come back to the beginning, something which was the essential meaning and the main symbol here that we have, this journey, this spiritual journey, coming back to God, coming back to one's heart, trying to get this purification. What you said is struggling against our own ego, and at the same time, as it is an individual journey, to get to the community. And with the community, what you said is the sense of humility. You said equality. You said something which is important against racism, because this is happening, and essentially also the relationship between men and women, this equality that we have in the presence of Hajar, in the presence of Ismail alayhim salam, and this understanding that we have. Adding to this, something which is also important, it's all this way towards purification cannot be done without resistance and striving and struggling, because this is something which is also important. And the last word that you used, humility, equality, but also courage and tawakkul, which is relying on God as something which is essential. This relying on God with courage is the way forward for Muslims. Well, that's all we have time for. Please let us know your thoughts and views on any of the shows you have seen, and here is the way to contact us.
We at Islam in Life would like to hear your views about the subjects that we discuss. We would also love to hear your suggestions for our program, so get in touch with us. You can share your thoughts with other Islam in Life fans, engage in debate, and find out how to watch our previous shows. Follow us on Twitter at Islam and Life TV, or join us on Facebook by liking our page, Islam and Life on Press TV.
Finally, I would like to thank my guest, Ahmad Ursi. Thank you so much for being with us, and I hope to see you next week, inshallah.